Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Carter, Director of Educational Content and Programs at Shape America. Thank you so much for choosing to attend my session, Health Moves Minds Delivered. May have signed up for Health Moves Minds or are thinking about signing up for Health Moves Minds, and I'm pretty sure you've already heard a lot about the program through MOSHAPE, and big shout out to Christy, Anna, and Kyle. But hopefully I'm able to provide some more information for you today to get you thinking about what this could look like for you at your school. So my objectives are to give you a very brief overview of the program, provide examples of how you can use Health Moves Minds activities in your teaching, and provide an example event that can be done virtually or in person. So before I get into the program, I really love this quote and I want to share this with you. Your emotions about your situation are valid and okay. It's been a stressful and very different school year, and I wanted to take time to acknowledge that. Whatever you're feeling right now in this moment, those feelings are okay, they are real, or even how you felt yesterday, or maybe how you might feel in the future. I just want to reassure you that whatever you're feeling is okay, it's normal, and that it's healthy, and that Shape America, MOSHAPE, we are here to support you in any way that we can. And the reason that I love sharing this quote is because in essence, this is what we're teaching through Health Moves Minds to our students. Your feelings are okay, your feelings are normal, and they're healthy. But what we're doing is we're helping students create this toolbox of skills to manage and regulate those emotions. And I'm going to explain that and demonstrate that to you a bit more today. So Health Moves Minds is really what we're doing is we're teaching health and PE through a social emotional learning lens. We are aligning social emotional learning competencies and teaching students important skills and concepts to really help them take care of their mind and body, really connecting how physical activity can be a tool to help our emotional health as well as our physical health, and that really both are equally important. We focus a lot on being physically healthy and being physically active as health and PE teachers, and we talk a lot about nutrition. And so we really want to have this holistic approach and really hone in on how our mind is equally important as our body. And so I'm going to walk you through some of those activities that you can do with your students in person, virtually in or virtually in a synchronous setting. So really, in a nutshell, if I had to describe Health Moves Minds, we are teaching students that to live your best and healthiest life, you should be kind, you should take care of your mind, and you need to take care of your body to do that. So by now, I'm sure you have seen this a lot, but I love it. It never gets old because it's a really important skill. So the image that you have on the right with the emojis is our emoji rating scale, and the image on the right is for our older students, and it's a how am I feeling. These are daily check-ins that you can do with your students. And you could use the high school version maybe for like 7th and 8th graders, and maybe the emojis you may still use for 6th graders and maybe your 7th graders, but you can choose. But really, this is a great way to check in with your students. When they come into your class, you're asking them, where are you right now? Where are you right now? How are you feeling? In fact, I'll ask you the question as you're sitting there and I'm doing this presentation and you're watching it, how are you feeling? Is there a certain heart that you identify with most? Is there a certain emoji that you would choose if you had to go with this? And so it's really an important skill to get students to start identifying their emotions, because it's really the beginning of some of the other skills that we talk about. And really, students are learning about themselves and they're learning to manage their emotions. So it takes the focus off them. It creates this culture of trust and a culture of caring, which is really important also when you're trying to create a trauma-sensitive learning environment. And so if students do feel comfortable sharing out, because I have to say that with this kind of activity, you should not require students to answer out loud. It can be anonymous. They can just do it mentally in their head, but you shouldn't really require students to do this. And one thing that someone shared with me recently that I thought was really cool is if you are in a setting like this in Zoom, I'm using Zoom right now, you can use what's called an annotate feature. So maybe you're at the high school level and kids could quickly check off, make a mark to where they might be feeling today, and they can do that anonymously, and you can kind of get a sense of how everybody's feeling. Or maybe students might make a little, just put a little dot or a mark next to where they're feeling on the emoji rating scale. Obviously, kindergartners may not be able to do that, but older students can do that, and you can use that as a way to check in. And so this is the beginning stages of this. Remember, we want them to participate in a way that they feel comfortable. And you have them do that again at the end of the class as well too. I know here where I'm at in Virginia, I'm in Virginia. This is a great activity because it can be done the way I just described in an asynchronous setting where I'm, someone's teaching virtually in this kind of capacity, or when you do go back in person, maybe you put this as a poster somewhere in your gym or your classroom and they do it then. And so then you're building this routine, you're creating this connection, this opportunity for connection, and creating these relationships with one another. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this emoji rating scale really quick. There's more emotions than 1 through 5, right? We're not just only happy, silly, okay, sad, or worried. So this is an opportunity to build on that. Students can do identify emotions 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and you may do that. Each class has different 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Maybe you have them create their own emoji as an assignment to get them thinking about their feelings and start becoming aware of how they're feeling. And so that's one way to do that also. When we do, so what's the importance of this? Besides, I've said several times, identifying emotions, what's important for this is that when students begin to do this, they're working on the SEL competency of self-awareness. They're beginning to practice this reflection, the skill of reflection. And if they feel like I'm feeling sad or I am worried, it could even lead into advocacy, advocating for themselves, which is a later skill in high school. It also works on social awareness. When students choose to share out, if they want to share out, it's building empathy. It's helping with social awareness. You know what? I didn't know Michelle was feeling sad today. Maybe I'll be a little bit nicer to her. Or I didn't know Michelle was feeling sad today. That's good to know because sometimes I feel sad too. And so we're kind of helping normalize all different kinds of feelings that students have. And if you're alive and you're breathing, we're going to feel, and we just really want to get students to think about that. It's okay to have these feelings, but what we're really trying to do is give them some tools to help manage them, as I mentioned before. And by doing this at the end of class again, so we do it in the beginning of class, at the end of class, what changed? If you moved from sad to okay, or from okay to happy, what did you do? Did you move a lot? Was your heart rate up? Were you sweating a little bit? So then we can also start making these connections about how when we're active, that's a way to improve our mood. And so maybe at home, if you're feeling a little down or maybe a little upset or angry, maybe there's something you can do like take a walk. Or is there some movement activity you can get on YouTube and get a dance video on, and that might make you feel better. So that's the first skill that I love, or strategy, I should say, tool that you could use in your teaching with students, and you can share that with other teachers as well. So the next few activities that I'm going to be talking about are really focusing on around this mindfulness piece, and I'm going to actually demo an activity with you. And I just wanted to show you, these are examples of the posters that you will find at healthmovesminds.org that you can download for free. You will have to create an account, but it's not committing you to anything. We just are we don't want people to have to create multiple accounts, and we do want to see who's downloading and using the information, getting the information. It helps us as we're developing materials. So this is our definition. These are different posters about what is mindfulness. Or if you're in an area that maybe mindfulness wouldn't be received so well, it's really just being self-aware. We're teaching students to pay full attention. That's with like identifying our emotions, paying attention. Sometimes we're slowing down to notice what we're doing, and we're focused and relaxed. A lot of the times, I'm sure you can relate to this, sometimes we're moving and we're going so fast that we don't pay attention to those things. We don't pay attention to how we're feeling, and we're just go, 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 go. Maybe we're irritable and we don't really, we're not really realizing that something happened that's still bothering us, or maybe I'm just tired, or really maybe I'm hungry. So really getting students to pay attention and beginning to slow down so that they can make a healthy choice. It's okay if you're angry. Why am I angry? Or what can I do to help me manage this feeling that is okay? Mindful minute is a cornerstone skill, I like to call it. This is the 6th through 8th poster, and it's one of the first skills or tools that we teach students at every grade level that they can use when they are having a big feeling. And it can look many different ways. It could look like the way the girl is in the picture with her eyes closed and she's sitting crisscross applesauce. Could be with eyes open, just sit back and relax a little bit. But the key here is what you're teaching them is you're just taking this moment to yourself, no matter how that looks. If it's just pacing, if it's laying down, if it's putting your head down. But you're teaching the skill about slowing down, giving yourself a minute, take a deep breath, maybe process a little bit, and then come back if you need to. So just these self-regulation, self-management tools. And one more thing before I move on that I just thought about is this is a great skill that you could teach to the other teachers in your school. You teach it in your class and you share it with other teachers. They can put these posters up in their classrooms, and then the students are hearing the same message from all their teachers. I was just talking to a teacher today about how she loves including other teachers, like the principal when they're doing their gymnastics unit. She used to be a cheerleader and a gymnast, and when she brings her in during that unit, so there's opportunity to do this. Maybe there's the school counselor or the school nurse or the librarian or other teachers to be sharing the same message is really important as well. All right, so mindful scarves is going to be the first activity that I'm going to do with you, and this is adapted from one of our mindful parachute lessons and activities in the first set of lessons for our elementary grades, but I still think maybe you could use this with older students too if you wanted to give it a try. So I really wanted to take the time to really show you which PE standard we're working on, because we're not leaving those by the wayside. PE standards and health standards are our #1 focus. We're just aligning the SEL competencies that make sense. And so this is the newest castle wheel with their social emotional learning competencies. And so I circled self-awareness and self-management because those are the 2 competencies that are being worked on. And more specifically, under each competency, there are sub-competencies, or there's other descriptors, I'll call them, that kind of help to that. So the ones for self-awareness are linking feelings, values, and thoughts, which can come into, and also being able to identify emotions. So through being mindful, they're able to take time to do that. And practice doing the mindful scars, they can think a little bit, they're pausing. And then for self-management, the specific ones are managing one's emotions. So first you have to be able to identify them, and then being able to manage them. And so then the other descriptor or sub-competency would be around identifying and using stress management strategies. So figuring out, we're going to give them, what I like to say, we're going to give them, a buffet of different tools they can use, like mindful minute, and later I'll show you better breathing. Which one do they like better? Which one works for them? I personally really love our better breathing exercise, but a lot of people really like the mindful minute. So really being able to have them try out these different skills and tools, then they can figure out which one really works for them. We're going to equip them. We're being proactive and giving them what they need to help manage their emotions, manage stress that can be used anywhere. And it's really healthy, right? That's really what we're doing. We want kids to be healthy. So I have a grocery bag here. And so for this activity, it's going to get a little noisy, is you need about 3 grocery bags or 3 juggling scarves if you do happen to have one. I'm going to suggest that you pause the video if you need to go grab those items. And then I would also ask you to get about 3 to 4 small objects. I have little kids that love blocks. So I'm going to use these blocks, but you could also use, you have a little character, there's Tupperware, if you're sitting at your desk and you just want to use some highlighters or anything like that, you use whatever you want. But if you could gather 3 scarves or grocery bags, which this is also how you can use something like this at home, start collecting them and give to your students, it'll be great. So I'm going to back my chair up just a little bit. And this activity that I'm going to walk you through can actually be found on Gopher's SEL pack, my PE pack. So Gopher has some amazing PE packs. And there I put the link so that afterwards when you get the materials, you can visit that and it'll describe everything. So I'm just going to go through a few of these with you. So we have our grocery bag that is going to look, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can see me a little larger. All right. Pause and get myself together there. And so I want you to take your grocery bag and you're going to take it and you're going to just put it up in the air, hold it between your finger, your first finger and your thumb, and you're just going to let it drop. You're going to bring it up, and you're going to let it go. Just going to scoot back just a little bit more. Let it up and down. And what I really want you to pay attention to is, what do you notice about the scarf as it falls? As you pick it up and maybe you toss it, how is it falling? How does it seem to be falling? Is it falling from side to side? Is it just going straight up and down? Is it different when you toss it versus when you just drop it? So what are you noticing about this? So that's beginning to get students to slow down. Sometimes when we do a juggling thing, we're just ready to catch it and move on to the next, right? We're just ready to throw and catch, throw and catch. But by having them to pause a little bit, and let's just take this moment to drop it. What am I noticing? And kind of forcing them, really getting them to kind of slow down and pay attention. We're teaching them that slowing down. We can slow down. So the next thing I want you to do is we're gonna take all 3. And I got all 3 of mine here. Let's just kind of ball them up. And I'm sorry if it's a little loud. I'll talk a little louder in case you can't hear me. So I want you to take the juggling scarves and let's just throw them up. What do you notice? You want to throw them up, all 3 at one time? Does one fall first before the other? Do we want 2 in one hand and 1 in the other? And drop it. I notice that as I throw them more and more, they're opening up more. I toss them up. They take a little longer to fall than versus when they were balled up. So it's another, just walking them through and progressing it. Another one is to take your scarf or your grocery bag and just rub it between your hands. What does it feel like? What does it sound like? Kind of noisy. And I want you to take the juggling scarf and just gently rub it against the back of your hand. What does it feel like? Does it tickle if I rub it a little harder versus maybe I just gently across, versus if I ball it up and then I rub it on the back of my hand? What does that feel like? So we're really getting them to slow down to notice things that maybe you normally wouldn't pay attention to, especially to an object. So you can do that with anything. So I have, the block here. You could do that with a block. You could do that with anything. If they have bean bags or a yarn ball. So it allows us to be present in the moment and not think about things that have already happened or things that might happen in the future. And that's really what this self-awareness or the mindfulness piece is during when we're teaching this at students. We don't want to think about what just happened or what might happen. We want to be right here in this moment, and that helps us to get us to slow down and really start paying attention to what we're doing. So next, I'm going to take that same, grab one of your scarves or your grocery bags. I'm calling them scarves because they're, in my mind, they're scarves now. We're going to hold a juggling scarf up, and here you can see I kind of have it pinched between my fingers, and we're going to talk, this is better breathing. This is the one that I really, really like. And so you're just going to hold the scarf in front of your face, kind of close, and you're going to take a deep breath, and you're going to take a deep breath so deep you can feel your stomach begin to poke out. So it's really using your diaphragm, since we're adults here, using that diaphragm to really draw on our lungs and to pull our lungs down so that we can really fill it, our lungs up with as much air as possible. So once we do that, I'll show you in a minute, then you're going to slowly and quietly breathe out. And your goal is to try to make the scarf move from your breath as long as possible. So here we go. I have the scarf up. I'm going to take my deep breath, and you eyes open, eyes closed, whatever you feel comfortable with. So I like to close my eyes because I really need to concentrate to get my diaphragm to pull on my lungs. So I'm going to So I'm going to move my scarf just a little bit closer because I really want to see how much I can get it to move with my breath. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to breathe in really deeply and breathe out slowly and quietly. We really want them to do it quietly, students to do this quietly so that they're controlling their breath. It's not just a, now I'm letting it all out. Want to do it nice and controlled. So again, deep in, breath in, and then slowly and quietly breathe out. So you can have students do that a few times and ask them, can you breathe out for at least 5 seconds? Quietly try breathing in deep and slowly, then breathing out slowly and quietly on your own. You can have them do this 10 or more times or do this for a full minute and then have them reflect on it after a while. For me, this immediately makes me feel relaxed. And so using better breathing or deep breathing is another great tool that when you're feeling a big feeling or a very strong emotion, like when you're angry, you're upset, maybe you're crying, or anything, anxious, nervous. I know personally, if I get really nervous, I do this. It helps me. When we breathe deeply using our diaphragm, it triggers a natural response in our body. It triggers a nerve in our brain to help us naturally relax. So that's one, and two of the skills. So we really, that mindful minute, we didn't do it, but you may have seen it, the mindful minute and the better breathing. So we're talking about slowing down, taking a moment to ourselves as one tool or one skill, as well as breathing as another skill. So things that don't require anything and they could really help us. And you can even, as you go through the program, having students determine which one they like better. All right, so now we're going to pretend, so this activity that we have here is when you do this in the program, it's really a parachute. So the parachute is pretending to be the mind. But today, since we're using a grocery bag, our grocery bag is going to represent our mind. And our objects that I have here, and you can see I purposely picked ones that are of varying sizes and shapes. Our parachute or our grocery bag is going to represent our mind. And we're going to just move our mind, our bag. So when you do this with a parachute, you shake it. You've done popcorn. I'm sure you've done popcorn before. We're shaking, we're shaking, we're shaking. And this represents our mind. Our mind is always going. It's designed to do that. That's why things like a mindful minute, the more we do it, the better we get at it, because it takes practice for us to have our mind to slow down and to pay attention to where we are in the moment. So with our parachute, or I'm gonna call it a parachute because today it's a parachute for me, even though it's a grocery bag. So I'm gonna shake my parachute. My mind is going. This is what my mind normally is like when I'm just working, going through things. If I'm not practicing being mindful, if I don't take the effort to slow down, all kinds of things. And these objects are going to be thoughts. So in a PE setting where you're doing this with a parachute, this would be a thought. So we have our thought here, and this might be something like, you know what, I forgot my homework. I'm gonna just stick that in my bag. I forgot my homework. Maybe I forgot to eat breakfast this morning. You know what, maybe grandpa is sick in the hospital. Maybe I'm feeling lonely. I haven't seen my friends in a while, which is relevant to right now. Anything else that you can think of, the different thoughts. Maybe I'm super excited about my birthday party this weekend. So all these different thoughts that sometimes can distract us or can cause us to maybe not feel so good, to be upset, or maybe just they're on our mind. So I'm shaking. I'm gonna try and talk loud because it's noisy. And I want you to look down into your parachute. What do you notice? All the thoughts. I'm right here, I'm just from back and forth. All the thoughts. And I'm gonna pause now. Now what happened? Our thoughts stopped moving. Once I stopped shaking the bag, and that's pretending for me to practice a mindful minute or better breathing, what happened to my thoughts? They stopped moving. So then you could walk through students, well, you know, thoughts are bouncing off of each other. What that might look like, you know, sometimes one thought can start small and then they can start bouncing off other thoughts, and then you kind of, it can go, you know, snowball effect. If you notice, some thoughts, like grandpa was sick in the hospital, was bigger than I forgot my homework. Or this one was, I'm feeling lonely. So using different sized objects, I'm excited about my birthday party or a vacation that I'm about to go on. You can use different size objects and weighted ones to talk about the different sizes of thoughts. When a bigger thought might take up more space in our mind, and it may bump around more thoughts that we're having. But really, we're using this demonstration that now that I've settled and I've done a mindful minute, or maybe I've done better breathing, my thoughts didn't go away. My problems aren't solved, but everything's a little bit more still. Now maybe I can come up with a healthier solution. Maybe there's something that I can do. I can think a little bit clearly, and maybe think of a healthy response, or talk to somebody, or think about a good solution, or something to problem solve what I'm going through. So that's called popcorn thoughts. This was normally done with a parachute, but this is what you could do with your students. And I know we did this sitting down with the other one, so it may not provide a lot of physical activity, but the meaning and the purpose behind it. This could be a great end of your high energy. You had a really good high energy lesson, and this could be one of your activities that you do to get back down to pre-PE levels, and you're still connecting these pieces that you want. So the great thing about Health Moves Minds and the concepts that you're teaching, it's not a one and done, right? You want to continue these things. You don't want to talk about mindfulness or these strategies and never use them again. So doing things like that, where you take these little segments and build them either at the beginning of a lesson, towards the end of lessons, really helps to reinforce that message. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen with you. So again, here we use the parachute and the scarves. For my grocery bag became a parachute and a scarf. And this is the link to where you can find directions for the scarf activity that I shared. We partnered with Gopher, and we created some activities around that there to promote Health Moves Minds and social emotional learning in PE. Here is a picture of what it looks like when it's being done with an actual parachute. On the left, the picture here, our teachers going through professional development, and they're doing a mindfulness exercise under here around the senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? Using using the senses, the 5 senses. What do you taste under the parachute at that moment? This teacher with the 2 pictures on the right, they didn't do a large parachute activity, they did smaller parachutes, and they did the popcorn thoughts that way, still equally effective, just like my grocery bag. So that was for elementary school. I think you could probably use it for middle school, maybe even high school. Parachute is so much fun. But to really get that visual, it could really be helpful. And the great thing is that we've heard teachers say that usually kids get really excited with the parachute, but with this activity, because you're already bringing them to a calmer place, they really are good at keeping the parachute still and not shaking it too much. All right, so this next activity I want to share with you, I have to give 100% credit to LaDonda Porter in Kentucky. She is our 2020 Southern District Middle School PE Teacher of the Year, and she took some of the Health Moves Minds activities and she virtualized them, and I'll talk a little bit more. So I'm going to talk to you about kind messages and negative messages, and this is for our middle school grades here. So again, I really want to point out what PE standards this is working on, along with our SEL competencies that we're talking about. So this is really talking about social awareness and relationship skills around kind messages. And even with kind messages, we have cues that, so the same way with a mindful minute, in the way that you would teach throwing and catching, we're gonna give breakdown with skill cues for kind messages too. What do they look like? You know, they should be genuine, those sorts of things. So we give even skill cues about when students are going to give a kind message, what that looks like. So with social awareness, it's showing concern for feelings of others, as that's the subcompetency under social awareness. And for relationship skills, really focusing on communicating effectively and developing positive relationships. So you can see that how that really does align with standard 4 and standard 5. As well as just opportunities to be active with standard 3. So I am going to click on this link here. Let's see how this works for me. All right, let me go ahead and pause this. So what LaDonda did here, you can see all my tabs, which I think it's okay. You will see that LaDonda here, she took our kind message cards and she put them in what is Loom, I believe, or Google Slides, and then she used a tool called Loom to randomize this. Over here in this video, our friend on the computer is going to time us. And so for the first, depending on you, when he says go, I want you to do either arm circles, sitting down, or I would like for you to do, you can do squats for the time, the amount. So I'm going to run this through and I'm going to let it roll through for a little bit.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start your exercise.
So for 10 seconds, you're either doing arm circles or you're doing squats.
5, 4,
when the timer
3,
stops, I'm going to
2,
stop.
1. Let's have a break.
All right, thanks for being a good friend. So once they're doing the activity, you stop the loop.
3, 2, 1.
Movement,
start your exercise.
Press play again. We'll do this couple. So arm circle.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's have a break.
And I'll pause it. You have a great ability to stay positive even during tough times. You know what?
3, 2,
That's a great
1.
friendly message.
Start your exercise.
And press play and arm circles or chair squats. Let's see what message we get.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's have a break.
I can count on you. I think that I can. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you again, and I'm going to stop this. So what she did is, the kind of a warm-up, what students would be doing in person is that they would be moving around and they would be collecting these kind message cards and they would be reading them. And after they go through this activity and they're collecting these kind message cards, teacher will debrief with them. So what are some of the messages that you read? And so really getting to think about the impact of kind messages. So asking them questions like, what was your first initial reaction or thought when you read the message? How did it make you feel reading all of the messages? How does it make you feel when you're receiving kind messages from friends or family, teachers or strangers? And how does it feel to give a kind message to someone? So really talking about how kind messages can make us feel good about ourselves and help build our self-esteem. So when we're hearing kind messages from other people, it reinforces maybe what we think about ourselves. It also can feel good to give a kind message. So being kind and giving and receiving kind messages may sound easy, but it can really take practice. So it does, sometimes it's uncomfortable when someone gives us a compliment, or we may want to give someone a compliment, but it can be hard. It may not always feel comfortable. So really getting students to start thinking about that. And like I said, with the skill cues, getting them to think about that as well, like how to give a kind message. So we can talk about that. So the next activity, and I'm going to share my screen, just one more, share my screen again. So the next part of the activity would be around kind versus negative messages. So let me click on this link. It's taking a little slower. The same thing, I'm gonna pause this. So the same thing, except there's going to, you'll see, we're gonna just run through it. So this time we'll do arm circles, or you can jog in place, or you can march in place, however you wanna move to this, how this music makes you want to move.
Tabata. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Round 1.
So she did a Tabata mix with this one. I'm just gonna randomly stop the song and stop here. You have a great outlook on life. So take a little break. Every time we pause, we'll play a message. And I'm going to play the music again, and I'm going to and Sherry,
3, 2, 1, stop!
Stop. So we're going to stop that. You're one smart cookie. So here we're going to play through. So this is the pause here. So you get your 10 seconds of rest, and we're going to continue. So this time I'm going to let it roll the 20 minutes. So whatever you're doing, jumping jacks, marching in place, arm circles again, maybe sitting or standing up in your chair. However you choose to move, how this song compels you to move. So you're choosing a little creative. And then on the stop. Negative message. Don't know how to dress. For kids, that could be
3, 2, 1,
about here. So we're gonna continue this. So now we have negative messages in here. So how does it feel to get a negative message versus a kind message? Just one more time. Just looking to the movement. You've been sitting in your chair for at least 30 minutes now, so we're gonna get this opportunity to move. When the 20 seconds are up, I'm gonna stop. You did another I can count on you. But Sarah, you have the best hugs. These are just examples. You're stupid. So
3, 2, 1,
I'm going
go!
to pause that, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And again, really this time, you notice that the negative messages were there. And so what did you feel when you first saw that negative message? What was your reaction? So getting students to think about that. So they will resume the similar activity. And so, talking them through it, that it might be kind of surprising. And imagine if someone said that to you. What about someone you didn't know? What about yourself? So what if we also talk to ourselves in that way? You're stupid, or you don't know how to dress, or any kind of you're so corny, you're not funny, or you never do anything right. So really even starting to talk about, discuss how we talk to ourselves, either positively or negatively, and how that affects us. So we're mostly talking to ourselves in our heads, and this is called self-talk. So this bringing up this concept to them about self-talk. Just like we practice giving compliments or kind messages to other people, we should be practicing and making sure we talk positively to ourselves as well. So really getting to think about the importance of those kind messages, and that's in that first lesson of Health Moves Minds, because talking to others kindly, practicing that, and even talking to ourselves really makes a difference. And so again, LaDonda Porter, I cannot take credit for that. She did all of that. And so we do have a Toy Talk Tuesday with her that is released on October 27th. And there's the link there. You can Google search Shape America Toy Talk Tuesday, and her instructions on how to do this, including her full lessons, how she virtualized them. and how she did it are on that website. So that's another great way of how you can use these activities in your virtual setting or if you're in person. Time for another quote. And so I love this quote because this is, again, summing up what Health Moves Minds is, and talking about the body benefits from movement and the mind benefits from stillness, right? We know our mind is always going. We want to be able to practice being able to slow that down, just in the effort to learn about ourselves, being able to manage emotions, to make healthier decisions. Sometimes a lot of our decisions are emotionally charged, and so sometimes our emotions can get us in trouble. Not all the time, but we want to be able to manage our emotions in the most healthy way possible. And we're really getting students to start thinking about that through Health Moves Minds. A few more resources here. We have our mind and body calendars. If you're thinking about field day activities, different challenges you can do, we have ready to go take home packets. You print them off and can send them to students as is. Daily Big Three, love this. This is another self-management guided practice for students. There's elementary and secondary versions and other resources. And it's on healthmovesminds.org in the For Parents section under Family Wellness. And the last thing I want to walk you through today is if you were to do an event. Here I'm using a virtual event, but this could easily be done in person as well. So I would like to think of like a virtual obstacle course. So this is how Health Moves Minds in action would look if you chose to do the fundraising piece with it. So you would decide to do a virtual obstacle course. The donations would equal registration. So people who sign up to do this virtual obstacle course would pay, and their donation would be like their registration. Maybe you set it at $25 or $20 or whatever they can give, and they're just saying with their donation if they want to do this obstacle course that they can. What you would do as the teacher is you would provide a list of challenges to complete. You'd have maybe easy, medium, and hard, different ability level challenges, different challenges that maybe work on different components of fitness. And for a virtual event, participants could pick a day to complete, and then they might share pictures on social media. Or everyone could participate on a set day at home at the same time and post pictures on social media when they complete. If you were to do this in person, you would just set up your obstacle course somewhere in the gym or on some outdoor facility, especially during COVID. If we're limiting exposure, you may want to do something outside. Maybe you do some of the stations, the fitness, those challenges, you would have them in stations, and students and parents and family members could practice on their own before participating in this obstacle course. Prior to the event date, you would set the date, you would do the educational materials. So maybe 4 to 6 weeks before your event date, you start talking about this. You would have students work on some of the obstacle course activities on their own. Maybe they would set a goal. If you're doing this in person, again, you would have them, maybe you'd give them some time every day during class to work on some of these obstacle course activities. You would go over them, you would teach them during that time. And then you would share the why. That's the big important. So example would be, we are raising money for whatever your why is. If you're raising money for a charity, we're raising money for our local food bank by having a virtual obstacle course. Boom, easy. We are raising money for a new rock climbing wall, or we are raising money for personal PE packs. So every kid has their own PE equipment by having a virtual obstacle course, whatever that would look like to you. Then you would share with parents what skills you're working on in class. Like if you're working on being kind, we're working on setting and achieving goals. So whatever you're working on during that unit, we're working on self-awareness, we're working on how it's equally important to take care of our bodies. We're working on overcoming challenges through doing an obstacle course, and will you join us? So all kinds of different ways that you can promote that event. And so this is one way that you could do it. So many different ways that you can do it and what works for you. Maybe you already have an event that works really well at your school and students look forward to it. You could just kind of shift the theme. If you have a jump rope event that you already do, it'd be as simple as, you know, changing the theme around, we're doing this jump-a-thon, we're learning how we take care of our heart and we take care of our mind through our jump-a-thon. And so we've been practicing having a big heart. We want a strong heart and a big heart. So we're giving back to our community while we jump rope or something along those lines. So we can come up with all kinds of ideas. And so we have our online fundraising. And so more details about that, but I really just wanted to show you an idea of how to do these events. And then online, we have all the even more details about how you can actually do the fundraising piece. And last but not least, I want to share with this justification toolkit. This is the program schools need. Health and PE is time to be prioritized. And so if you need any help with justifying this, sharing and promoting to your principals so that you can do Health Moves Minds. If you want to do the ed materials, please use the educational materials in your classrooms. We feel like the ed piece is more important than anything right now. And then later in the second half of the school year, if you can do fundraising, then use this time now to introduce the program so people are familiar with the program, and you have a whole this school year to really teach the concepts around being mindful, taking care of our mind and body, and then end with a celebratory event like the obstacle course or a jump-a-thon or a dance-a-thon or a family fitness night. You can do that too, but we really want you to use the ed materials, and we're here to help in any way. So with that being said, here are two important websites. We have our shapeamerica.org COVID-19 resources. It's been new, it's revamped, a lot of free materials there, including PD, and we have healthmovesminds.org with some of the activities that I talked about today. If you have any questions, you can email healthmovesminds@shapeamerica.org. I'm on Twitter, at HPE Michelle. Follow me, at me. If you watch this, I would really love to know. If you're attending MOSHAPE and you watched this session, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to know what you thought about it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to say thank you so much for choosing to watch this session. It's probably a little longer than the other ones, but I love talking about Health Moves Minds and being able to share with you this importance of this program. Again, if you have any questions, healthmovesminds@shapeamerica.org. But in the meantime, take care of yourself. Bye.